always, we're here to teach those who want to be taught, serve those who want to be served, and shepherd those who want to be shepherded. Let's go to the Father in prayer. Avenu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, we thank you for this seventh-day Sabbath that you've created and invited us in to join. We are thankful to rest from our labors on this day and come before you in worship. We ask that your word be heard today, that it would pierce our hearts and give us the understanding of who you are and who we are as the children of Israel. We pray for all those that aren't able to join us today, Father, that you would bless them and keep them resting on the Sabbath and rejuvenate and heal and restore them as they prepare for the coming week. We love you and we thank you and we come before you in the name of your Son, Yeshua. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Am Israel, Am Israel, Am Israel Chai. 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 Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai. Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai. Or Avinu Chai, Or Avinu Chai. Or Avinu, Or Avinu, Or Avinu Chai. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom Alechem. Heavenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Shalom, Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalom, Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalom, Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalom, Shalom Yerushalayim. Shalom, 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 Shalom Yerushalayim. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Jerusalem shall live in peace. Shalom, 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 Yerushalayim. Shalom, 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 Yerushalayim. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. Bye.
May the Lord bless and keep you.
All right. Announcements. The Walkers won't be here next week. We'll be at Proclaim, and we'll be back the following week. Next week, we're going to not have service, so everybody will Shabbat Shalom at home. Yep. Any praise reports that we have?
Praise God for all the things we're getting done on the property. Praise
Amen.
God for our lives and how we exist for Him.
Amen. I agree.
Keep His commandments every day.
We've been very blessed and very fortunate to be obedient and walk in His commandments and walking out in faith and living out our faith as well. As you guys know, Ken's twin sister's husband passed away. So not Ken, Keith. Why do I always call him Ken?
That's all right.
It's Keith. Anyway. Anyway, so they're in Wisconsin, so we need to lift them up in prayer, just to kind of help the family get through this difficult time. And I haven't received any other prayer reports, prayer requests from anybody, so I don't have a whole lot. I'd like to lift my wife up in prayer. I've been praying over her since last night, and just pray that the Father would give her the answers that she's seeking in regards to her employment and to her health. That He would just definitively lay that out before her so that she would understand and have that. So we can go to the throne in prayer right now, and we'll just lift these prayer requests up. Avena Volcano, Father or King, we thank you and we love you, Father, for all that you've given us. All the blessings that you've bestowed upon us, Father, as your humble servants. We're undeserving of your love and your mercy, and we're thankful for it. We lift our brother Keith and his sister and the rest of the Ripke family up to you, Father. They're dealing with the loss of Keith's brother-in-law, and we asked last week in prayer that you would be merciful and end it swiftly, so that this brother was in no more pain, and you answered that prayer, Father. So we ask that you wrap your arms around that entire family and comfort and support them, and let them know that your presence is there, and you're calling them back. As Brother Keith and Linda are witnesses of what your power and your glory is, let them continue to be a light to that family as they grieve the loss of a loved one. Lift up my wife Heather to you, Father, that you would provide the answers that she's seeking with her employment and in regards to her health. I step out in faith every single day, Father, and following your commands. And whatever your will be done, may it be done, and may we be a part of it, Father. So whatever it is, if show her in her own reckoning of what she needs to do, and be observant and faithful and obedient to you, Father. We lift up this property and this family. We thank you for all the mercy and loving kindness that you've shown us, and all of the things that we've been able to accomplish. You've been the motor behind it, and you're the reason behind all the things that we're doing. We do everything in our life for you, and we live for you each and every day. We love you, Father, and we thank you for everything that you have given us, and everything that you're going to give us, and everything that you've prepared for us. We come before you in the name of your Son, Yeshua.
Father, I just thank you for this day, the best of your Sabbath. Keep your commands, and that's you. We can humble before you all the days of our lives. Pray that walk into your kingdom also. Give us the strength, Father, to persist in righteousness and walk in your law every day. Just thank you for this chance to serve you. Just praise you, Yeshua, all your goodness, and mercy to us. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Amen.
Amen. Hallelujah.
All right. We'll rise for the Shema, and we'll recite it in our broken Hebrew. we ask for forgiveness again.
Okay.
I might be silent on a couple of parts. You guys may have to help carry me through. First, we're going to recite the Shema in Hebrew. Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malkuto, Leolam Vaed, Ve'ahavta Yahweh Elohecha, Be'kol levecha, Uve'kol nafshecha, Uve'kol meodecha, Ve'hayu ha'advarim ha'eleh, Asher Anoki, Metzavakayom, Oleven lecha.
Betushanam leven, betibar tebam, bevishiteka, beveteka, ubelekich, tarek.
We're all struggling again. We need to practice our.
Keep going.
Aliadeka, beayu leo, beneneka, ubatam
Zuzo beteka,
uvishareka.
Maybe in the middle, we need to practice out at the river today, this middle part, and just go over it and over it
until
and
we
over
get it down.
Right?
That'd be good.
Right. All right. So now we'll do it in English, something we're a little bit more familiar with. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh is one. And you shall love Yah your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and you shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahweh. Amen. All right, now we get to get into the readings. This week's Torah portion is Korach, or Korah. We're going to be starting in Numbers 16, verse 1, and we'll read all the way through chapter 18, verse 32. And I can start us off if you want, because it's got some, in the beginning it's going to be difficult with Hebraic names, but that's okay.
That's okay.
We'll get through it. So, Numbers 16, verse 1. And Korah, the son of Ishtar, son of Keah, son of Levi, took both Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, son of Pelath, sons of Reuben. And they rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, called ones of the meeting, men of the name. And they assembled against Moshe and against Aharon, and said to them, Enough of you, for all the congregation is set apart, all of them, and Yahweh is in their midst. Why then do you lift up yourselves above the assembly of Yahweh? And when Moshe heard, he fell on his face, and spoke to Korah, and told his company, saying, Tomorrow morning Yah shall make known who is his and who is set apart, and bring him near to him, and let him bring near to him the one whom he chooses. Do this. Take fire holders, Korah, and all your company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yah tomorrow. And it shall be that the one whom Yah chooses is a set apart one. Enough of you, sons of Levi. And Moshe said to Korah, Hear now, you sons of Levi. Is it little to you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to perform the service of the dwelling place of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation and serve them, and that he brought you near to himself, you and all your brothers, the sons of Levi, with you. Yet you seek the priesthood as well? Therefore you and all your company are set against Yah. And Aharon, what is he that you grumbled against him? And Moshe sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab. But they said, We are not coming up. Is it little that you have brought us up out of the land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you would also seize total rule over us? Also, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor have given us an inheritance of the fields or the vineyards. Would you bore out the eyes of these men? We are not coming up. And Moshe became very displeased and said to Yahweh, do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I done any harm to any of them. Then Moshe said to Korah, tomorrow you and all your company shall be before Yahweh, you and they and Aharon. And take each of you his fire holder, and you shall put incense in it. And let each one bring his fire holder before Yahweh. 250 fire holders, and you and Aharon, each one with his fire holder. So each one took his fire holder and put the fire in it, and laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of appointment with Moshe and Aharon. And Korah assembled the congregation against them at the door of the tent of appointment. Then the esteem of Yahweh appeared to all the congregation. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe and to Aharon, saying, separate yourselves from the midst of this congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. But they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, when one man sins, are you wroth with all of the congregation? And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, move away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moshe rose up and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, please turn away from the tents of these wrong men. Do not touch whatever belongs to them, lest you be consumed in all their sins. Then they moved away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives and their sons and their little children. And Moshe said, by this you know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works, that they are not from my own heart. If these die as all men do, if they are visited as all men are visited, then Yahweh has not sent me. But if Yahweh creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens up its mouth and swallows them up, all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into Sheol, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahweh. And it came to be, as he ended speaking all these words, that the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, their households, and all their men with Korah, and with all their goods. So they and all those with them went down alive into Sheol, and into the earth it closed over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. And all Israel who were round about them fled at their cry, and they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And fire came out from Yahweh, and consumed the 250 men who were offering incense. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, say to Eleazar, son of Aharon, the priest, to pick up the fire holder out of the blaze, for they are set apart, and scatter the fire some distance away. The fire holders of these men who sinned against their own lives, let them be made into the beaten plates as a covering for the slaughter place, because they brought them before Yahweh. Therefore they are set apart, and let them become a sign to the children of Israel. And Eleazar the priest took the bronze fire holders, which those who were burned up had brought, and they were beaten out as a covering in the slaughter place, a remembrance to the children of Israel, that no stranger who is not of the seed of Aharon should come near to offer incense before Yahweh, and it not be like Korah and his company, as Yahweh had said to him through Moshe. But all the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moshe and against Aharon the next day, saying, you have killed the people of Yahweh. And it came to be, when the congregation assembled against Moshe and against Aharon, that they turned toward the tent of appointment, and see, the cloud covered it, and the esteem of Yah appeared. And Moshe and Aharon came before the tent of appointment. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, arise from the midst of this congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces. So Moshe said to Aharon, take the fire holder, and put the fire in it from the slaughter place, and lay incense on it, and go, hurry to the congregation, and make atonement for them, for the wrath has gone out from Yahweh, and the plague has begun. And Aharon took it as Moshe commanded, and ran into the midst of the assembly, and saw the plague that had begun among the people. And he laid on the incense, and made atonement for the people, and stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. And those who died in the plague were 14,700, besides those who died on the account of Korah. Then Aharon returned to Moshe at the door of the tent of appointment, for the plague had stopped.
So it wasn't the strange fire, it was the wickedness of their heart. It wasn't the fire incense holders at all. They did the right thing with it, but they were doing it with the wrong intent.
And they were trying to usurp authority.
Yeah,
they were trying to take a position that they were not given. They were given a set apart position. They're the sons of Levi.
Yeah.
They already were doing the Father's work, closest to him.
Yeah.
And they wanted more.
Yeah.
This is what happens when people get like power hungry and greedy. You feel, like you said, the evil, the disdain, that I want more. It's rightfully mine. I've earned this. And one thing that we find out, especially here, Yahweh appoints people their position.
Right.
He appoints it. We don't seek it out.
No.
He appoints it to him. He anoints his people, like King David. King David did not raise a knife or a sword to Saul. Saul was the anointed king of Israel. So was David. But David was waiting until Yahweh took Saul on his own. So that is a symbol of what we're given. We don't get to choose what we're given. We don't get to choose what gifts. We don't get to choose the position. The only thing we're going to get to choose is when we go, we get to choose which camp we want to be in, which one of the tribes that we're going to dwell with when Yeshua returns. And this is part of what happened last year with the assembly. Is there was some talking behind the back, and it got to a couple of people, and then it spread like wildfire. And then there was an uprising against the fellowship, and the fellowship crumbled. And constantly we always said, you do not know what you seek. If you knew what you were seeking, you would turn away from it and not seek it, because the responsibilities that come with these things, with these positions, it's not a responsibility anybody should seek out. But that's why the Father picks people. He uses people that aren't the strongest, that aren't the handsomest. He picks people that are the exact opposite of that. David was a little boy, 12, 13 years old, when he was anointed to be the king. He was in no position to even know how to run a country, let alone Yah's people. But the Father anointed him. And during that time, while he rose up and Saul's came to an end, the Father was training David. And that's how David had the heart of the Father. And we look at the disciples as well. Most of them were fishermen. These are not pious people. They were raised in the faith, but they're not pious people. But yet the Father worked very strongly through them. They didn't get to pick, the Father picked. And this is what we see right here in number 16. You got stuff to add?
No, that's pretty good. Yeah, that was interesting. Before, I used to think it was a fire. They brought a strange fire.
Mm-hmm.
It never even says that in the whole thing. It's the will of their hearts was set against Yahweh, who he had wanted to be the leader. That's why Yeshua said, "You are all my servants, and I am the master. I tell you what you do. I know your hearts. I can tell you what to do. But you don't even know each other's hearts, much less your own."
Right. Good.
So we're all servants.
I would like to say, I just noticed the first time too, where it said every man took his censer. I always thought that only the priest had censers, but it sounds like every man had a censer. So
Every man of the tribe of Levi.
Okay.
So Korah comes from the tribe of Levi.
Right.
And so they were already given a tent of appointment position. They were the only ones that were allowed to have the censers, is how I understand it. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah. 250 men initially, and these are from, this all started with the eldest, the tribe of Reuben, right?
Right.
And isn't this one of the reasons why the tribe of Reuben is exiled? Because of the rebellion. Yeah.
Well, Reuben's tribe already had a black mark because of Reuben.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, he messed up
Yeah.
with his dad's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yep.
That kind of had something going on there.
Yeah. In this one, we see again Moshe interceding for the people, protecting them. Father, please do not destroy them all. This is the third time that we're seeing this now. That Moshe fell on his face and begged the Father, don't do this. This is not what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
Do not kill everybody because of one man.
Yeah.
Take care of the people that are sinful. Destroy them, but not the people that are not, rising up against you.
Yeah.
Well, that plague must have been, it was instant.
Right?
People were dropping
Yeah.
just like flies. It sounds like 14,000 people. Yeah.
Yeah. If we don't have anything else, we can move on to 17.
And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and take from them a rod for each father's house, and their leaders according to their father's houses, 12 rods. Write each one's name on his rod, and write Aharon's name on the rod of the levy. For there is one rod for the head of each father's house. You shall then place them in the tent of appointment before the witness, where I meet with you. And it shall be that the rod of the man whom I choose buds, and I shall rid myself of the grumblings of the children of Israel, which they grumble against you. And Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and all their leaders gave him a rod each, and each leader according to their father's house, 12 rods, and the rod of Aharon was among their rods. So Moshe placed the rods before Yahweh in the tent of the witness, and it came to be on the next day that Moshe went into the tent of the witness and saw that the rod of Aharon and the house of Levi had budded and brought forth buds, and blossomed and bore ripe almonds. And Moshe brought out all the rods from before Yahweh to all the children of Israel, and they looked, and each man took his rod. And Yahweh said to Moshe, Bring Aharon's rod back before the witness, to be kept as a sign against the rebels, so that you put an end to their grumbling against me, lest they die. And Moshe did as Yahweh had commanded him, so he did. And the children of Israel spoke to Moshe, saying, See, we shall die, we shall perish, we shall all perish. Anyone who comes near the dwelling place of Yahweh dies. Shall we be consumed to die?
Well, that's a really short chapter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The rod, because Aharon was the anointed priest,
Mm.
and the other ones were not, because their rods did not bud, and they now they couldn't come up and try and exalt themselves into that place because of the Aharon's rod, and that was covering Moshe too, because he was a brother.
Right.
But that's interesting how that lays that out.
And isn't the rod eventually put into the Ark of the Covenant,
I think so, yeah.
along with an earthen vessel of manna, along with the stone tablets on the side?
Right.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me, and I've never seen it before until right now, the rod is an almond tree,
Yeah.
or an almond branch rod.
And it budded too.
Yeah,
Grew
and
almonds.
produced ripe almonds right there. It's like,
Right there, on a rod that's not planted in the ground.
Yeah.
I think how the Father used that rod. That rod became a snake that gobbled up the other snakes.
Yeah.
Like that. And so that implement was really powerful for visually, for all of the children of Israel.
Yeah.
And for Aaron, I'm sure.
oh yeah, to see all the things that those people have seen in such a short amount of time, from the time at Mithraim, when they were slaves to Pharaoh, to this time here, we're talking a couple of years, and everything that's happened in between that. A lot of stuff has gone on in between then and now.
Make you realize you're a servant,
Yeah.
not a king.
Okay, we can read chapter 18 now.
Okay.
It seems to be a little bit longer.
You read that, honey?
My version's a little different.
That's okay.
Then Yahweh said to Aaron, You and your sons and your father's house with you shall bear the iniquity related to the sanctuary, and you and your sons with you shall bear the iniquity associated with your priesthood. Also bring with you your brethren of the tribe of Levi, the tribe of your father, that they may be joined with you and serve you while you and your sons are with you before the tabernacle of witness. They shall attend to your needs and all the needs of the tabernacle, but they shall not come near the articles of the sanctuary and the altar, lest they die, they and you also. They shall be joined with you and attend to the needs of the tabernacle of meeting, for all the work of the tabernacle, but an outsider shall not come near you. And you shall attend to the duties of the sanctuary and the duties of the altar, that there may be no more wrath on the children of Israel. Behold, I myself have taken your brethren, the Levites, from among the children of Israel. They are a gift to you, given by Yahweh, to do the work of the tabernacle of meeting. Therefore you and your sons and you shall attend to your priesthood for everything at the altar and behind the veil, and you shall serve. I give your priesthood to you as a gift for service, that the outsider who comes near shall be put to death. And Yahweh spoke to Aaron, Here, I myself have also given you charge of my heave offerings, all the holy gifts of the children of Israel. I have given them as a portion to you and to your sons, and as an ordinance forever. This shall be yours of the most holy things, reserved from the fire. Every offering of theirs, every grain offering, and every sin offering, and every trespass offering, which they render to me, shall be most holy for you and your sons. In a most holy place you shall eat it. Every male shall eat it, and it shall be holy to you. This also is yours, the heave offering of their gift. With all the wave offerings of the children of Israel, I have given them to you, and your sons and daughters with you, as an ordinance forever. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. All the best of the oil, all the best of the new wine, and the grain, their first fruits, which they offer to you, to Yahweh, I have given to them. I've given to you. Whatever first ripe fruit is in their land, which they bring to Yahweh, shall be yours. Everyone who is clean in your house may eat it. Every devoted thing in Israel shall be yours. Everything that first opens the womb of all flesh, which they bring to Yahweh, whether man or beast, shall be yours. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall surely redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. And those redeemed of the devoted things you shall redeem when 1 month old, according to your valuation, for 5 shekels of silver, according to the shekel of the sanctuary, that is 20 gerah. But the firstborn of a cow, the firstborn of a sheep, the firstborn of a goat, you shall not redeem. They are holy. You shall sprinkle their blood on the altar and burn their fat as an offering made by fire for a sweet aroma to Yahweh. And their flesh shall be yours, just as the wave breast and the right thigh are yours. All the heave offering of the holy things which the children of Israel offer to Yahweh, I have given to you and to your sons and daughters, and with you as an ordinance forever. It is a covenant of salt, forever, before Yahweh, with you and your descendants with you. Then Yahweh said to Aaron, You shall have no inheritance in their land, nor shall you have any portion among them. I am your portion, and your inheritance among the children of Israel. Behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel as an inheritance in return for the work which they perform, the work of the tabernacle of meeting. Hereafter the children of Israel shall not come near the tabernacle of meeting, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall perform the work of the tabernacle of meeting, and they shall bear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. For the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer up as a heave offering to Yahweh, I have given to the Levites as an inheritance. Therefore I have said to them, among the children of Israel, they shall have no inheritance. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak thus to the Levites, and say to them, when you take from the children of Israel the tithes which I have given to you from them as an inheritance, then you shall offer up a heave offering of it to Yahweh, a tenth of the tithe. And your heave offering shall be reckoned to you as though it were the grain of the threshing floor, as the fullness of the winepress. Thus you shall also offer a heave offering to Yahweh from all your tithes, which you receive from the children of Israel. And you shall give Yahweh's heave offering from it to Aharon the priest. Of all your gifts you shall offer up every heave offering due to Yahweh, from all the best of them, and the consecrated part of them. Therefore you shall say to them, when you have lifted up the best of it, then the rest shall be accounted to the Levites as the produce of the threshing floor and as the produce of the winepress. You may eat it in any place, you and your households, or it is your reward for your work in the tabernacle of meeting. And you shall bear no sin because of it, when you have lifted up the best of it. But you shall not profane the holy gifts from the children of Israel, lest you die.
There is so much that the Father is speaking to the tribe of Levi right now with this. All of the contributions from the children of Israel go to Levi. Every last one of them.
All the tithes. Yeah.
Yeah. The most set apart gifts that are presented to the Father are given to the tribe of Levi. The Father gives it back to them. It's crazy.
I have a question.
Okay.
In 9 and 10, when it's talking about the offerings, why does it say every male eats it only?
Let's see. So in 9, this is yours are the most set apart gifts from the fire, all their offerings and all their grain offerings and all their sin offerings, all their guilt offerings, which you render to me, are most set apart for you and your sons. Eat it in the most set apart place. Every male eats it. It's set apart to you. Only a male can be a priest. So only Levi and his sons would fulfill that role. They're the only ones that are allowed in the most set apart place. Anybody else that goes to it, they would die, just as Levi's or Aaron's two oldest sons, right? His two oldest sons went even to the curtain of the tabernacle, the most set apart place, and were stricken down. So that's why this is a very specific thing that is given in a very specific way, and that's the way that they're to eat it. The rest of it talks about these offerings. Grain offering, the sin offering, and the guilt offerings. There's other offerings that the entire tribe of Levi can eat, but these are the three that only the males would partake of.
Because it did say later on that your wives and
yeah. You can eat the other ones anywhere, and there won't be any sin for it. And right following in 11, the wave offerings. So when we do the wave offering, that would go to the children of the tribe of Levi. So if the Levitical priesthood was here today, when we did a wave offering, after the wave offering, we'd give it to them.
Right.
We'd present it to them, and that's how they sustain. You know, they relied on the 12 tribes to provide for them, because they were doing the tabernacle service. They weren't farmers. They weren't out there harvesting anything. Their job was to serve between the Father and the children of Israel. So it was the responsibility of the children of Israel to provide absolutely everything that they could for the tribe of Levi. You know, everything that they needed to sustain life. And the tribe of Levi received the absolute best of it.
why were they better than everybody?
They were chosen. They were the set apart.
Mm-hmm.
They were selected by the Father specifically.
But also think about it too. They're doing the most set apart work,
Yep.
so they should deserve the best of all of the land, in a sense. You know? And
Go ahead. Sorry.
it's okay. Like how, like I don't think it just means that like Yah thinks that they're better than everybody else because everybody has a purpose, right? Just like how earlier in the portion we read how Korah got upset because he was like,
Not the leader.
yeah, he was like, how, like now you're gonna be leader all over all of us, and just like the rebellion that he had in that, like, is kind of in a way thinking about it, kind of how we were talking yesterday, like comparing himself to others and then bringing like that bitter heart to others in the camp, and then bringing the rebellious heart and spreading that and spreading it like to, it becomes like a poison to those around him. And so his purpose, he was still in the tribe of Levi, and he was still important, but he compared it to, well, in my mind, like, well, I wanted to be better than this, you know? So, but thinking like, well, what if we go to the kingdom and we're not part of the tribe of Levi? Like, say that we're not. Or like, what if those of the 12 tribes are like, well, I'm not part of the tribe of Levi. Does that mean I'm not important because I don't get the first of all of like our hard labor? I don't think it's that. It's just like how talking about in the New Testament, in the Hebraic, where it's like the foot is important just as the nose is important. And so I think we can easily compare it and be like, well, it just makes it seem like Yah favors them more than the other tribes, but the other tribes have just as equal importance. We just don't see it as much because it's not overly talked about as the tribe of Levi.
It's in different ways.
Yeah.
So here's something to think about it. When we give something, do we give something that's the best or good or whatever? Think about it in relation to our kids. Do we give try to give our kids the best of everything? You know, this is to our kids. How much more so should we be giving to the Father? You know, and I know a lot of people. This is part of the tithing. You know, that 10%, the firstborn of everything. You know, all of these go into the tribe of Levi. It supported them, and you know, and the Father says the firstborn male that you know comes out of the womb, that one is set apart to me. He identifies that those people are his. Period, and that's been established from the beginning. So if we can give the best to our kids, and that's what the expectation is, how much more so should we be giving the best of everything that we have to the Father? You know, like in our application today, I try to give absolutely everything I have to the Father. Nothing is really mine. This is all temporary stuff, and the Father has provided it for me. He's provided me a loving wife and a handsome son and a great family to spend time with. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more, and it would be inappropriate for me to ask for anything more because I'm just going to give it right back to Him. It's His. You know, He's given it to me just like He's given it to the tribes of Levi today. As we're reading, they're just doing what He's called them to do, and they don't look at it and like Korah did. Korah was the example of what not to do. You know, we don't need to be comparing to one another, like Jess said. Some people are legs, some people are fingers, some people are ears. They're all important.
Some people
It
are
makes up
toes.
right. And people even have to be the armpit, but you know it's still part of the body. It's still important. The body won't function without it, or it won't function properly.
Yeah.
So when we give our gifts and we're giving to the Father, and if we were in this time right now, and we're making those sacrifices and those set apart offerings, would we be giving our best lamb?
Absolutely, make sure we're doing it.
You know,
It's our service.
if we're, how easy would it be to hold back the best one and give them the second best because we want to have the best one for ourselves.
Right? That's a hard thing. Like, it's like, oh, I know that somebody else is going to be eating this. I know this is going to taste so much better than what the rest of it I have. You know? That's a hard thing. Yeah, it's hard.
It is.
It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice from the heart, really, as opposed to like a sacrifice of your physical, like, goods. It's like, my heart and my flesh desires this more than anything else. So you're sacrificing from the heart, really.
You got something?
When you give it according to the way that Yah sets it up, even the second best is the best.
Right.
You can't knock and say, hey, I want what the Levites have. You got to take what you get because that's what Yah's getting. Your word is servant, so just be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Which reminds me of the wicked servant. Do you remember? I'm gonna get this so wrong. I don't remember exactly how it goes in the Brit Hadashah, but there was a wicked servant who didn't do his best. Maybe it could have even been the parable of like the talents. I don't remember what, or if it was with farming or whatever, but it makes me think of this, and maybe you guys can figure out what it is. But it makes me think of, say you're working on the land and you know that you have to give the best to Levi. And you're like, well, I'm not really going to work that hard and do my best right now so that I can give the first and then they can get whatever and then my best will come later. You know, that truly too is a wicked heart. And what the thing is no one else around you really knows that's what's going on inside, but there's one who always knows the heart condition inside, and it's so important because we as humans can so easily be like deceived by our own hearts, which is why why Yah says the heart is wicked, desperately wicked, and I don't remember the rest.
Who could know it?
There we go. Okay. But because we easily deceive ourselves of our own heart's intentions, and we always need to be on guard of ourselves and be like, am I doing this for the right intention or for the wrong intention? Because nobody else around you can check that.
The heart condition is something that we talk about a lot. Go ahead, Mom.
I think of Ananias and Sapphira.
Mm-hmm.
Their heart condition. When you were talking about that, I'm like, nobody knew their heart until that happened, and then it was revealed. But the Father knew all along. You know, they were acting all like, yeah, we're doing the same like everybody else, giving the best, and they weren't.
Yeah.
And what did Paul say? You didn't have to do any of that. It was for show.
Ananias and Sapphira, so you guys may not remember, they were the ones that it was Peter.
Oh,
they come before Peter, and Peter told them to go sell off all of your possessions and come with us, like Yeshua has said multiple times. Get rid of everything. Pick up your cross and follow me. You know, pick up that cross and follow me. Ananias and Sapphira, they went and sold all of their possessions, but they buried a little bit of it, setting it back. And when they came before Peter, it was Ananias that came first. And Peter asked him a question, and Ananias lied. The Ruachs told Peter immediately that Ananias had lied, and Peter rebuked him, and he fell dead immediately. And then the servants that were there went and took the body and buried it. Then a little while later, his wife came in, not knowing that her husband had been killed. Was asked the same question, told the same lie, and Peter told her, you will join your husband in the grave today because he spoke his last breath just as you are now. And boom, she fell down dead immediately too.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's those things where
it's a heart.
We talk about a heart condition all the time. And G.W. Stevens, he's Joel Osteen's brother-in-law. I think that's G. Stevens, but a lot of his teachings revolve around the heart condition, and it makes such perfect sense. Like Jess was saying, we can try to rationalize things in our mind to try to make it right, but when it's written in the scripture and it's black and white, okay, that shows that our heart condition isn't in the right area, that it's desperately wicked, and that's something that we've been given grace now with Yeshua. Is we still have time to repent from these things. We still have time to come into the knowledge of the truth. But if we don't repent, then it's easy to fall back into the ways of the world. We rationalize it. It's okay. That doesn't really mean that. It doesn't mean this. That just says we can worship any day. We should be worshiping every day, not just on Saturday. We should be worshiping every day. You're not wrong, but the Father has a specific day that He says that it will show as a sign or a mark of His people that He is their Elohim. So I used to try to rationalize things too, especially if I was, and this is before I was in the faith. This was rationalizing things as I was inebriated. I was a little bit intoxicated and trying to rationalize bad behavior. Like, oh no, it's fine. I'm drunk. I'll forget it tomorrow. But it's that type of thing. How we have that in the flesh. Paul says he is constantly battling his flesh, and Paul was the most pious guy around. How much more are we going to be battling our flesh? So, yeah, heart condition. We got to keep check of our hearts at the door, every day. That's why when we recite the Shema, to impress it upon your children, to speak of it when you rise up and speak of it when you lie down, and all it says you should be speaking of the Torah at all times of the day. So when I open my eyes, I'm thanking the Father. Okay, Father, thankful another day on this earth. Let it be a day for you. And when I'm going to sleep, thank you, Father, for this blessed day. I've gleaned something from this day, whether it's a good or a bad day. I'm still thankful to the Father that His mercy and His long suffering have allowed me to continue here, to be a light to the nations. Anything else out of 18? That's a good one.
I'm good.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in verse, and there's a couple of scripture that somebody else can look up. 2 Samuel 7, 8 through 16, and Numbers 18, verse 19. So, in Numbers, I'm at Numbers 18, 19, sorry. So, when he's talking about, I've always thought this was interesting. It is a covenant assault before Yahweh with you and your descendants with you. Salt's talked about in the Brit Hasha. Yeshua said, the salt of the earth. And then there's a reference over in 2 Chronicles 13, verse 5. Should you not know that Yahweh, your Elohim of Israel, gave the dominion over Israel to David forever, to him and his sons, by a covenant of salt. And then, I don't know what 2 Samuel 7, 8 through 16 says.
I have it right here.
Okay.
8 through 16? You want me to read all of that?
I guess
I can read it.
I don't know. Maybe the whole thing is relevant.
2 Samuel?
The covenant of salt.
Yeah, 7, 8 through 16. It says,
2 Samuel, hold on, let me get there. 2 Samuel 7, 8. Okay.
And now say to my servant David, thus said Yahweh of hosts, I took you from the pasture, from following the flock, to be ruler over my people, over Yisrael. And I have been with you wherever you have gone, and have cut off all your enemies from before you, and have made you a great name, like the name of the great ones who are on the earth. And I shall appoint a place for my people Yisrael, and shall plant them, and they shall dwell in a place of their own, and no longer be afraid. Neither shall the children of wickedness oppress them again as at the first. Even from the day I commanded rulers over my people Yisrael, and have caused you to rest from all your enemies, and Yahweh has declared that He would make you a house. When your days are filled, and you rest with your fathers, I shall raise up your seed after you,
who comes from your inward parts, and shall establish his reign. He does build a house for my name, and I shall establish the throne of his reign forever. I am to be his father, and he is to be my son. If he does perversely, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Perversely, I shall reprove him with the rod of men and with the blows of the sons of men. But my loving commitment does not turn aside from him, as I turned it aside from Shaul, whom I removed from before you. And your house and your reign are to be steadfast forever before you. Your throne is established forever.
It didn't say anything about salt. But I'm just curious about the covenant of salt.
Mm-hmm. It's not one of the covenants that's talked about a lot. We know the covenant with Noah and the rainbow, and then we know the Abrahamic covenant, but how many other covenants were made? Covenant was made here of salt, and that was for the Levites. It'd be interesting to do a study and see how many different covenants there are.
So, Monty Judah's good friend that he sometimes does teaching Messianic updates with,
Eddie
Chumney has a, I know he's hard to listen to sometimes, but he has a good teaching on the covenant of salt.
Oh, really?
He does.
I need to listen to that. I just think that's interesting.
But are you still working on that, Mom, talking about that?
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. So what's interesting within this, it talks about the rod, and obviously in here it's talking about Yeshua, Well, when we were over here in Numbers, let me go back to it. Clay and I, because we had read Isaiah 11, the whole thing, not just that little snippet that I sent you and you two. We read the whole thing. Can I read it? Okay. So in Isaiah, it pertains to, Clay was like, we read earlier about the rod. I'm like, I don't remember reading about any other rod in Numbers today. And he goes, oh, it was in Isaiah. So Isaiah 11.
Well, the first thing we read this morning was she wanted to show me something in Isaiah 11. And then we started in the Torah portion of 16.
Funny. That's
so I
where
thought
I bookmarked to read.
Numbers that
Well, read it with me while I read it. So Isaiah 11 says, and the rod shall come forth from the stump of Yeshai, and a sprout from his roots shall be fruitful. The spirit of Yahweh shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yahweh, and shall make him breathe in the fear of Yahweh, and he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and shall decide with his straightness for the meek ones of the earth, and shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and slay the wrong with the breath of his lips. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and trustworthiness the girdle of his waist. And a wolf shall sojourn with the lamb. Okay, that gets into another thing. There's in here, it basically goes from almost the beginning of time to to the end, and then back into when we get into the greater Exodus. In that whole chapter. So if you read the whole thing, it's so exciting and enthralling and so much to unpack. But when we read it, it talked about the rod in the beginning, and the rod was Yeshua, and the rod was and he judged, right, with that rod. Well, then we were like, Numbers 18, sorry. Oh, sorry, the rod was in verse 7, in chapter 17. I thought it was in 18. But it says, and Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and take from them a rod of each of the father's house, all their leaders, according to their father's houses, 12 rods. Write each one's name on his rod. Write Aaron's name on the rod of Levi. Well, at that point, I was like, oh, how awesome. Yash trying, that's kind of because it was Levi's rod that was chosen. So it's it's redeeming the tribe of Levi in a sense. But Clay was like, there's something here. He's like, we talked about the rod.
And then the only one on all of the tribes that doesn't have like the tribe of Levi, the tribe of Judah, Naphtali, right, is Aharon. He said, but put on the tribe of Levi Aharon's name. But also Aharon is the high priest. And the priests are the ones that judge a matter, right? You bring a matter to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then it says that Yeshua is going to judge with the rod of his lips. Is that what I read?
Yeah.
So right now he's our high priest, right? Because when he was sacrificed and rose again, it kind of goes back to the resemblance of the red heifer, because the red heifer is the resemblance of Yeshua, right? So there was just so much, like there was a spiral tornado going on in this. And so anyway, it's like, okay, so Yeshua is going to, at the end of this age, is going to give the judgments, but he's not going to yet be on this earth when he gives those judgments, so he's still the high priest, because it also says when he comes down to reign, he is king, right? Doesn't it say that in scripture? When he is on the earth, he's king, but when you're king, you can't also be priest, which is why the Levitical priesthood is here. Well, he is here for that 1,000-year reign, right? Okay. So it was just like, whoa. It's like, Clay was like, God's telling us what he's doing at the end and the beginning right there.
Yep.
It was exciting. I could be wrong. Clay could be wrong. We could be wrong. But that's just kind of what we saw.
It's good to be with them.
The 2 Samuel reference, unfortunately, it didn't capitalize where it should have when it was speaking of the Father and his Son. His was capitalized, but the S wasn't, and that it should have been, because it's a direct reference to Yeshua that we already know.
Right.
So this is where, like, the Scriptures version made a mistake, in the translation. And it's easy to do. I find I make accidental things like that too, posting on Facebook. But to see it written down, I'm like, wow, that's kind of a big thing that right here in 2 Samuel that's revealing Yeshua perfectly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, when I read it, I'm like, well, this is when it's talking about Aharon, or when it mentions Aharon, I see it, basically prophesying of Yeshua, or it having a parallel. Aharon, it is being likened unto Yeshua. You know what I mean? So when he's talking about Aharon there in Numbers 17, he's really talking about Yeshua, being the priest, and the Levites obviously the little bit of the priesthood. So I thought it was really interesting.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like there was so much, like, when I read Numbers 16 through 18 this morning, I'm like, dude, I could do like a month study on this. There's so much meat there that we're barely just scratching the surface of all of the meat that is in those couple chapters there. It's pretty deep.
What I find interesting is the church and their tithing. That the Torah is not applicable anymore. We don't follow it. Yeshua nailed it to the cross. But they send around a golden plate asking for their money, which is, they call it tithing. And tithing was only specific to one group of people.
Israel,
the Levites, and the Levites alone. Yeah. That's it. So I posted a thing on Facebook, and it's probably going to irritate some people, but sometimes the truth is painful. And it shows, if you look in the Scriptures version of that, go to Hebrews between chapters 4 and 5, and there's a snippet in there, and it talks about Constantine and how Constantine changed the Sabbath. Constantine was a Roman Catholic of the Roman Catholic Church, So essentially, by default, if you're keeping the Sunday Sabbath, you're a Catholic. Because if you were a Christian following Christ, then you would be celebrating on the Sabbath, not on the first day of the week. So it's right there in the scriptures. I looked at mine this morning. It's in the picture of Facebook it said Hebrews 5. Mine was on the previous page of Hebrews 4, and it had that snippet. Jess is going to pull it up right now. It should be a picture of itself. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was in my Restoration Study Bible.
Yeah, I think it was.
Maybe
There.
maybe I am mistaken.
Because they don't have those kind of things.
Like Hebrews
Hebrews
what?
4 and 5.
Hebrews 4 and 5. Sorry for the confusion.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It says, did you know?
Yep.
Did you know that Constantine the Great, the first Roman emperor to convert to Christianity, remained a committed sun worshiper, even though he recognized Christianity through his edict of Milan in 313 CE. He continued to worship the sun. In 321 CE, he officially declared Sunday from the Latin die solis, meaning day of the sun, as the day of rest, and in so doing, forever changed Sabbath worship from Saturday to Sunday for most of Christianity.
That's it. That's what the only meaning of the word Sunday, huh?
Well, if you say Sunday instead of day 1,
It's different, right? Well, I mean, even the words of the week are Greek or whatever.
Yeah.
they're all pagan names. Anyways.
Oh, and even Babylonian. You know, when we look at the Hebrew months names, those come from Babylon.
Yeah.
When the Almighty Creator didn't give names except to one, and that was the Sabbath. That was the only day that had.
And he gave the first month as a Eve.
He didn't say that in the Torah though.
Yeah.
That came later in the writings in
But he
the
did later do that.
prophets.
Yeah, that's the only day he actually, of the week that he actually
Passover.
names.
Well, that promise of rest is Hebrews 4:1 through 13. It totally talks about that.
About the Sabbath rest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there remains a Sabbath keeping for the people of Elohim.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate that the people in the church, many of them, most of them probably, are going there with the heart to want to worship. Their heart is wanting to do that,
Absolutely.
but they've been programmed that, well, we got to reject any of this. They're told, and they will speak up. Well, that the Torah's done away with. It doesn't apply. We don't have to do that. Jesus took care of that for us. Then why are you asking for my money at your church? Because tithing, that's an Old Testament thing. If either you're going to do away with it all, or it's all applicable. It can't be, well, I'm just going to take here and here and here, because then it's man-made doctrine and religion. It's either black or white. There really is no gray area in these matters.
So, question. Because, like, in the sense, like, the Zedeka
Mhm.
box, that's an offering, which is different than a tithe. And we can give out of our heart if we want to, and that would be coming, like, because our heart wants to give to Yah, regardless of where that goes, that is, like, to give to Yah. So, like, say, like, the churches wanted to say, here's an offering instead of a tithe. Is that kind of like, because then, too, weren't all the offerings only given to the Levites? But I still feel like Yah still wants us to give offerings to Him. Like, because He's created us to worship Him. Even though the Levitical priesthood isn't set up right now, we all want to give from our hearts, and sometimes the best way we can give, some people can only give money because they're so busy and tied up with, like, work. Or they can give an offering of something else, right? So, that's not wrong, though.
it becomes problematic when they call it a tithe, and it is tithing. Not today with a tzedakah. It is an offering. It is a charitable contribution that will be used to further the enhancement of the Father's word through what we're doing here.
Right.
The praises, those are the offerings that we can submit. The praises of our lips, the praises of our hearts, how we're being obedient in a place where it's extremely difficult to be obedient because it's so black and white as to what this country has been built on in Western civilization. This is a totally foreign concept, and we're often ostracized and outcasts and whatnot. But when we bring a sacrifice of praise in song or in dance or in our speech, those are the offerings that we can do. The person that can only offer money because their work is too busy, I would say the Father wouldn't want that. He wants that relationship with that person, and the money is meaningless. It's like, okay, here's the money. Just leave me alone. I'll come back next week and give you more. It's like, I don't know. But
I just want to say, let's don't forget, and we don't know her name, but the widow who offered 2 little copper pennies. That's all she had. But you know what? It was from the heart. That offering was so honored. And it was put in here for a reason. For us, not to say, well, gosh, I can't give $100. I can't give, $20. But you know what? It's all a heart issue.
Right.
All of it.
Yeah. We were talking about that about a week or 2 ago.
I brought that up to Clay.
So I was like, I don't have the money.
And I'm
she's
like,
like, did that widow have space? I'm like,
how dare you use scripture against me?
I sometimes I hate being married to a godly.
But you really love it. That's funny.
That's what we do. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, totally. I felt, of course, convicted. I'm like, it's your rights.
Yeah, but I don't know how convicted.
It's between us and the Father. It's totally between. I mean,
each one bears.
Yeah. And that's why some congregations they just give you an envelope. So nobody knows it's between you and the Father. And so, yeah. Before we leave and go to this, I just want to say I didn't even. How many times have I read this? In Leviticus 2:13, this is going back to salt. Sorry, but it said every offering and grain and meat is used interchangeably there. You shall season with salt. Every sacrifice you shall season with salt. So they must have had like a big bowl of salt.
Well, that was also an offering. That was like a poor man's offering was salt.
Yes.
So that was always given, so they always had a supply.
Yeah. So that is,
But think about this too with salt. Salt has always been, and salt will always be, and salt preserves life, or preserves things. So with this salt covenant that it's talking about in Numbers, it's so important that it preserves, and it will always be, and it always has been.
It is preservation.
Yeshua calls himself the salt, right?
Yep.
He calls us the salt too.
We should be the salt of the earth.
He calls us that too.
Oh, that's.
That
brings
so
a
deep.
lot of meaning so many dynamics into the picture.
It always has been and it always will be. You can't get rid of salt. I don't know what it is with the chemical composition of salt. I don't understand it, but you cannot physically get rid of salt. It'll always be.
It's a byproduct of water, and our bodies are made up of 97% water. H2O. There's salt in there. When they give you an IV bag, what are they giving you an IV bag of?
Salt water.
Normal saline, salt water, and it's the exact composition that your body needs. When we're dehydrated, what do? what do we get hydrated with? Salts and electrolytes, right?
That's right.
It's that replenishing thing that it is water soluble, so it can be liquefied, but it's also in solid form. And it's one of the very few things I think that it may or may not be a gas. I'm leaning towards it. It doesn't go into a gas form, but it could. You know, a lot of properties of the salt.
Well, I know I have a salt inhaler, and if I'm really struggling, I put Himalayan salt in there and suck on that, and it will. So there's so many things. So the vapors from that are healing.
Okay, cool.
So there's a gas.
Well,
There
I
it
know
is.
that you can put salt in water, right, in a pot, and then when it boils, then you boil it and it evaporates. And I think there's crystals at the very bottom of all the water.
Yep.
Maybe I just need to find out if it doesn't.
Is that how you make salt?
The salt is a natural byproduct in the earth. If we look
It's
at
mined.
one of the videos that we did was on your walls, Old Jerusalem today, and it shows pictures of the Dead Sea. It's the Dead Sea because it's salty. Salt is along the entire coastline of that.
But say we needed salt and we weren't able to go buy salt.
You would go to the Dead Sea that is really close by and get salt.
There's no Dead Sea here, but I'm saying
No.
here.
Oh.
Like, say we can't go get salt here. Clay and I actually were talking about this like yesterday or the day before. We're like, how? I mean, I know that there's big salt rocks and big salt blocks and stuff like that, but say we're not anywhere near somewhere like that. How do we get that salt?
Don't know.
I need to research it.
Yeah, you gotta.
Utah.
We get it from the Himalaya mountains too. The Himalaya.
Right.
No, I'm saying we can't
Listen,
drive,
listen.
we can't leave, we're stuck, we need salt, we run out. How do we get it?
We pray for it. Ask
Yeah,
the
like,
Father.
Right, yep.
Make a salt block rise up
We
in
got
the
rain
earth,
salt
yeah.
from heaven.
Oh
You gotta. I mean, you kind of have to be somewhat of a. What's that specialist that studies rocks?
Geologist.
The geologist. You gotta have to be a little bit of a geologist to be able to locate salt because it looks a certain way. And it's in rock.
We ready to move on to the Haftarah?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be in 1 Samuel today, 11 and 12. 1 Samuel chapter 11, verses 14 and 15. It's the last two verses of that chapter. And we'll read through 22. So, 1 Samuel chapter 11, verse 14. And Shmuel said to the people, "Come, and let us go to Gilgal and renew the reign there." And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they set up Shaul to reign before Yah in Gilgal, and there they slaughterings of peace offerings before Yah. And there Shaul rejoiced, and all of the men of Israel very greatly. We move into chapter 12, verse 1. And Shmuel said to all Israel, "Look, I have listened to your voice and all that you have said to me, and have set a sovereign over you. And now look, the sovereign is walking before you, and I am old and gray, and look, my sons are with you. And I have walked before you from my youth to this day. Look, I am here. Witness against me before Yahweh and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose donkey have I taken, or whom have I oppressed? Whom have I abused, or from whose hand have I received any bribe with which to blind my eyes? Then I restore it to you." And then he said, "You have not oppressed us or abused us, nor have you taken any bribe from anyone's hand." So he said to them, "Yahweh is witness against you, and his anointed is witness today, that you have found naught in my hand." And they answered, "He is witness." And Shmuel said to the people, "It is Yahweh who appointed Moshe and Aharon, and who brought your fathers up from the land of Mithraim. And now stand still, so that I judge you before Yahweh concerning all the righteous acts of Yahweh, which he did to you and your fathers. When Jacob had come to Mithraim, and your fathers cried out to Yahweh, then Yahweh sent Moshe and Aharon, who brought your fathers out of Mitzrayim and made them dwell in this place. But they forgot Yahweh their Elohim, so he sold them into the hands of Sisera, commander of the army of Hatzor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the sovereign of Moab. And they fought against them, and they cried out to Yahweh and said, We have sinned because we have forsaken Yahweh and served Baals and Asheroth. And now deliver us from the hand of your enemies, we serve you. And Yahweh sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Yiftah and Shmuel, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies round about, and you dwelt in safety. And then when you saw that Nahash, sovereign of the children of Ammon, come against you, you said to me, No, but let a sovereign reign over us, when Yahweh your Elohim was your sovereign. And now here is a sovereign whom you have chosen, and whom you have asked. And see, Yahweh has set a sovereign over you. If you fear Yahweh, and shall serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the command of Yahweh, then both you and the sovereign who reigns over you shall follow Yahweh your Elohim. But if you do not obey the voice of Yahweh, and shall rebel against the mouth of Yahweh, and the hand of Yahweh shall be against you, as it was against your fathers, and now stand and see these great matters which Yahweh does before your eyes. Is today not the wheat harvest? Let me call to Yahweh, so that he sends thunder and rain. Know then and see that your evil is great, which you have done in the eyes of Yahweh, in asking for yourselves a sovereign. And Shmuel called to Yahweh, and Yahweh sent thunder and rain that day. And all the people greatly feared Yahweh and Shmuel. And all the people said to Shmuel, Pray for your servants to Yahweh, your Elohim, that we not die, for we have added to all our sins this evil of asking for sovereigns, or for ourselves of a sovereign. And Shmuel said to the people, Do not fear, you have done all this evil, only do not turn aside from following Yahweh. And you shall serve Yahweh with all your heart, and do not turn aside after worthless matters, which you do not profit or deliver, for they are worthless. For Yahweh would not cast away his people for his great name's sake, seeing it has pleased Yahweh to make you his people.
First one is, you see where it says, today is today not the wheat harvest?
Mm-hmm.
Shavuot?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then every time I see between first fruits and Shavuot, like the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, I continue throughout Scripture to see a great testing. Like, yes, we're always getting testing during the feasts, but that 50 days, not just like right before, during, right after, like 50 days that it seems like Yah's people come through great adversity and testing to see how they're going to act and be. And it's like, whoa. Anyway, that's just interesting.
The other one is, it says, and do not turn aside after worthless matters, which do not profit or deliver, for they are worthless. Reminds me back of what we read in number 16 with Korah's rebellion. Like, we can easily stir up within our hearts a matter that isn't very big, and make it bigger than it is, and make it then spew poison out on those around us, and make it a matter that shouldn't have been.
So swallow yourself with that first.
Yeah, that's right. Let's not do that. Let's make sure we stay on guard.
See, through our studies and through walking out our obedience in our faith, when we see things like what you pointed out, the time of the wheat harvest, we know what season that is right away.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in tune with Yahweh's Moedim, his calendar, his set apart times.
Yeah.
So we can identify where all of these books of the writings and the prophets, where they fit into the Torah. You know, when it talks about the Feast of Weeks or the Feast of Sukkot, you know, that this is those times that they were writing about. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, when you were a Christian, when you were to read that, you were like,
Okay, well,
That is
wheat
amazing.
harvest. The harvest is all year
oh,
long.
wheat harvest? Yeah, that's something that they did back then. Fell
Mom mentioned something a little earlier that just came back. How grain and meat are interchangeable. Like the heads of the grain, they were the meat of the grain itself. It was what they ate. So it's not necessarily identifying a specific animal. Like you said, it is very interchangeable.
The straw is used to fed animals.
Yep. Anything else out of 1 Samuel here? Well, we'll go into the Brit Hadashah. And we'll be in Luke 18:35 through 19:28.
Girls, you gotta be paying attention, and we'll get a test later.
Luke 18:35.
18:35 through 19:28.
And it came to be that as he was coming near Jericho, that a certain blind man was sitting by the way begging. And hearing a crowd of passing by, he asked what it meant. And they reported to him that Yahshua of Nazareth was passing by, and he cried out, saying, Yahshua, son of David, have compassion on me. And those going before him were rebuking him that he should be silent. But he was crying out much more, Son of David, have compassion on me. And Yeshua stopped and commanded him to be brought to him. And when he had come near, he asked him, saying, What do you wish me to do for you? And he said, Master, to receive my sight. And Yeshua said to him, Receive your sight. Your belief has saved you. Immediately he received his sight and was following him, praising Elohim. And all the people seeing it gave praise to Elohim. And having entered, he was passing through Jericho, and see a man called Zacchaeus, and he was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. Okay, and he was seeking to see Yeshua, who Yeshua was, but was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. And having run ahead, he climbed up into a sycamore tree to see him, because he was about to pass by. And as Yeshua came to the place, he looked up and saw him and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry up, come down, for I shall stay at your house today. And he hurried and came down and received him, rejoicing. And seeing it, they all grumbled, saying, He has gone in to stay with a man who is a sinner. As Zacchaeus stood up and said to the master, Look, master, I have given half of my possessions to the poor, and I have taken whatever from anyone by falsehood. If I have taken whatever from anyone by false accusation, I repay fourfold. And Yeshua said to him, Today deliverance has come to this house, since he also is the son of Abraham. For the son of Adam has come to seek and save that what was lost. And as they were hearing this, he spoke another parable, because he was near Jerusalem. And they brought the reign of Elohim, and he thought the reign of Elohim was about to be manifest straight away, right then. Therefore said a certain nobleman to the distant country to receive for himself the reign in return. And calling the 10 of the servants, he gave 10 minas, and said to them, Trade until I come. But his subjects were hating him, and sent a delegation after him to say, We do not wish this one to reign over us. And it came to be, when he came back, having received the reign, that he sent for the servants whom he had given silver, in order to know what each had gained by trading. First came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 10 minas. And he said to him, Well done, good servant, because you were trustworthy in small matter, have authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Master, your mina has earned 5 minas. And he said to him also, and you be over 5 cities. Another came, saying, Master, here is your mina which I kept laid up in the handkerchief. I was afraid of you, because you are a hard man. You take up what you did not lay down, and you reap what you did not sow. And he said to him, Out of your own mouth I shall judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was a hard man, taking up what I did not lay down, and reaping what I did not sow. Why did you not put the silver in a bank? And when I come, I could have collected it with interest. Then he said to him, to those stand by, Take the mina from him, and give it to him who possesses 10 minas. But they said to him, Master, he already possesses 10 minas. I say to you that everyone who possesses shall be given, and from him who does not possess, even what he possesses shall be taken away from him. But those enemies of mine who did not wish me to reign over them, bring them here and slay them before me. And having said this, he went on ahead, going to Jerusalem. It came to be.
That's it.
That's all.
Oh, that's 28.
Yeah.
Oh, 28.
And others translations, it's Zacchaeus, I think is how they pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my wife is vertically challenged and kind of like Zacchaeus, and I could see her running ahead and jumping up on a tree like Zacchaeus just to get a visual. If I was short in stature, I'd do the same thing. I mean, Zacchaeus was people were judging him because he was a tax collector, and automatically that was a sinful thing. But nowhere in the Torah do we read that a tax collector is a sin.
No.
You know, it's only a sin if you're stealing as a tax collector.
Yeah,
But we see that Zacchaeus, what did he do? He repaid everything fourfold. He went above and beyond the 1/10 that was supposed to be paid. He repaid it fourfold there.
That's in Torah though. That's why.
Fourfold?
Uh-huh.
I thought it was 1/10. That you
But
replace it plus 1/10 or 1/5.
1/5.
But it's also, isn't it also like because he took? We need to look that up. I'm pretty sure he did it according to Torah. Did he not?
He repaid everything that he had stolen out of bribery or whatever.
Right. Hold on.
He knew who was coming to his house.
Wait. Question. Because you give back what you've taken, but you're supposed to give back a certain amount when you take.
It's just 1/5.
No. So 1/5 isn't 4 times.
Whenever you steal.
Got it. I see.
So doing fourfold, it's 4 times what that matter was. So if it was 1 cow, he gave him the 1 cow plus 4 more.
Right.
Go ahead, Mom.
Exodus 22:1. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, he shall restore 5 oxen for an ox,
Oh, okay.
4 sheep for a sheep.
It is there.
That's what
Okay.
I thought it was.
So
It's biblical how he did it.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
he was following Torah.
Which is why back in another assembly at some point, at some lifetime ago, there should have been a restoration in a certain way. Never mind. Finish.
Talk later. Anything else out of this one? Otherwise, we'll move on to Romans.
Annabelle has a question she wanted to ask.
Annabelle, what's the question?
Oh, that's good. No, we like questions.
Yeah.
Go
Questions
for
are
it.
good.
Tell us. Ask us.
She wanted to know why Zacchaeus acted like a nice man after she met Yeshua.
That's a good question.
I would say that Zacchaeus was probably a nice man before. Otherwise, Yeshua wouldn't have wanted to stay at his house if he wasn't nice.
Yeah, that's right.
But then why would he be a nice man and steal? Because that's not loving your neighbor.
Well, he was a nice man, but he was just following what everybody else was doing.
There's a word that Zacchaeus said.
Listen, Annabelle, Bubby's going to answer your question.
And if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold.
So did he originally think he was doing it according to the right accusation?
He said right there, if by false accusation, even by false accusation,
Right.
not by
Accusation.
right.
Like
by,
somebody witnessed him stealing.
Right.
Even if somebody just said, lying,
Right.
that you stole from me, he repaid
Bearing
it for
false
more.
witness.
Right.
If somebody said that about him, even if it was false, he was willing to restore it fourfold.
there's another part in there that shows us how nice of a man he is.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is good.
Pretty hard.
But though that still doesn't answer the question of why he was stealing before.
Was he?
It doesn't say that he was stealing.
So then,
Was.
oh, I see why you brought that up. Now I get it. Because everybody said because he was a tax collector.
That's
Hold on.
right.
Because he was a tax collector, then he was a thief. But that was just like, it's like saying, oh, cream. It's just like saying,
Mustard.
you know, we're Americans, so we're cocky and stuck up, or whatever other countries say.
It's like
about
assuming.
American. Yeah, or what's that called? It's a stereotype. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I could be wrong on what people think of us as Americans, but I'm just saying. The stereotype is because he was a tax collector, the stereotype is tax collectors steal, but not necessarily that he was doing that.
Right.
We also know Zacchaeus was a nice man because he gave half of everything he had to the poor.
Yeah.
What rich man does that?
Yep.
Zacchaeus was a nice man because he gave half of everything he had to the poor people.
50%.
And people just assume because he was rich, he was stealing. But think about this. Yah was blessing him because he did that very thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was a righteous man, which
He
is
was.
why he knew the Torah and then gave
Yes.
according, even if he was accused falsely. Because
Yes.
he wanted people to know,
Yep.
be my friend. I am a righteous man, even if you accuse me falsely. That is so interesting because
I've seen that before. That's cool.
you're always taught that he was a bad man.
Yep.
You're
Yeah, that's
always taught,
Christianity.
just like I was saying a few weeks ago, you're always taught that Saul was always bad. But Yah made sure oppression came on him after he sinned, right? So there were times when he'd be like, oh no, David, I remember, I love you. I gotta read Samuel again so that I can give the actual scripture. But and David still loved Saul.
Oh.
David still loved Saul even after he was trying to come and attack him. And he loved his son and his daughter. They were married. It's just you're always. It just blows my mind. We're told something different, and we need to look into it and see if it's right.
Let's just bring that right down to today. If you're Caucasian, you are oppressive, you're everything that is wrong, and we know that is not true.
Right.
But there are people that want to make that so.
Right.
Just like all those people then, and it's because of history.
Right.
Historically, there were tax collectors that were thieves.
Yes.
Obviously.
So it labeled all of them that way.
It labeled everything, everybody. But this man was not. He was a righteous man.
That's so. Annabelle, did you hear that? Zacchaeus was
question.
always good. That was a
an
good,
awesome
very
question.
good question. You brought up amazing discussion.
Yep.
Yeah, good job, Annabelle.
Well,
Next time you can ask the question out loud yourself.
She asked that because we watch a little show called Superbook, and it teaches them actually a lot about Old Testament scripture.
But it's
a lot of the
Christianized.
series are on it. So it's animated. It's really cool. It's really I even get a lot of stuff out of it when I watch it with them. But in the Zacchaeus one, it says that Zacchaeus was basically it shows him counting the money, by himself behind closed doors. And he's like, one for Rome and a little extra for Zacchaeus in the video. So she has seen that as Zacchaeus is kind of being a slime ball.
Sneaky.
Mm-hmm.
He's being
stealing from himself, from the people. So that may not be right after the super black guy.
Yeah,
Yep.
probably is.
Yeah.
But what I also wanted to say about that was a really good insight that you brought up, Levy, about Zacchaeus. But what I wanted to ask is if you read, so there's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, if you read the other epistles, right? if they would say something different about Zacchaeus, whether or not he was, you know, an upstanding tax collector or not, because each one of the epistles has a little bit extra, you know what I mean? Different. They had a little bit more info sometimes, or maybe they leave some info out sometimes about.
I don't think he's mentioned in all four.
I don't think he is either.
No, a lot of things you find in one or two.
Yeah.
Sometimes three, but I rarely did you find something that's in all four.
I just wanted to bring that up and see if there was something in any of the other ones about Zacchaeus that was some details that maybe Luke didn't mention. But that would be mind blowing to see that he was never really a guy that was, you know, slimy.
Well, Yeshua, right after it, declared him righteous. He said, your righteousness is fulfilled. You are a son of Abraham.
Well, was that because he believed?
He did believe.
Because that day when he met Yeshua or whatever, he believed that in the Messiah. Was that why he was counted righteous? Or was it because
I think he was counted righteous because of how we're counted righteous. He was walking out the Torah principles, living it, knowing exactly what needed to be done, and also seeing the Messiah.
Yeshua said that after he gave 4 times much back. Okay.
I would even wager to say that he was looking for him.
He was looking for Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus was looking for Messiah.
Yeah.
Come to his house.
Zacchaeus is only mentioned in the book of Luke. That's it.
See, how it was explained to me one time, and it's a really good analogy and a metaphor. Okay? The 4 Gospels don't always line up, and they're not supposed to. Right. Otherwise, if they lined up perfectly, it would be, all right, this is not believable. This is copied. This is just copied. Right. There's nothing extra in it. So you picture a lamp. I'm looking at the lamp in one way. I see the lamp as a far-off thing, slightly yellow, has some orange in it. Julian's perspective of looking at the lamp is going to be different than mine because he's closer. Your perspective is going to be closer, and if somebody was on the opposite side of the lamp, it would be different as well. Now take that as a rock. We're talking Yeshua's life during his ministry. We're told that if everything was written down of all the things that he did, the books would stack from here to the heavens. And so we only have these 4 small things. So when we're looking at Yeshua's ministry, Luke came late into the game. He wasn't one of those that was there at the beginning, like Matthias. Matthias was there at the beginning, and that's why his is first. John is last because who did Yeshua love the most? John. John's perspective is also correlated with Revelation when he wrote it from the island of Patmos. It's all about your perspective and seeing things. We all see things a little bit differently. And when we're not with one another, like Matthew and John, they were both disciples, but Luke wasn't a disciple of the Messiah himself, but he was a disciple of a disciple. His interpretation sheds a lot of light because he was then getting the information from his disciples, such as Paul did, sitting at the feet of Gamaliel learning. Paul obtained all that information, so did Luke. He was sitting at the feet of one of the original disciples. So his perspective was from a broader perspective than that of the disciples that were right there that's absolutely seen everything Yeshua did.
That's pretty cool.
It's when you start putting the 4 Gospels connected to one another, and Michael Rood did it. It's the chronological Gospels, where he writes it out starting from the beginning, and it starts off with Matthew, and then it adds in Luke and John or whatever it is, gives it a timeline of exactly where all these guys fit in and interchanged.
Yeah, Michael Rood.
Yeah. Anything else? Otherwise, we'll read Romans. We got a special surprise here in a bit.
A surprise?
Yeah.
Cool. I
Oh,
can't wait to
boy.
see what it
I
is.
can't wait. Can I read all 3 of these?
I love surprises.
Are you just going to speed read it? Did you want the surprise?
Yeah, she is.
I'm
Hurry
being
up.
sarcastic. I really want to actually dig into these. But you can't tell me there's a surprise and we still have 3 readings to do.
He blew it already, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Come on. What are we waiting for?
All right. Romans 13, 1 through 7.
Okay, I'll read it. Ready? Let every being be in subjection to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from Elohim, and the authorities that exist are appointed by Elohim. So he who opposes the authority withstands the institution of Elohim, and those who withstand shall bring judgment on themselves. For those ruling are an object of fear, not to good works, but to evil. Do you wish to be not afraid of the authority? Do the good, and you shall have praises from it. For it is a servant of Elohim to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword in vain. For it is a servant of Elohim, a revenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore, it is necessary to be subject, not only because of wrath, but also because of the conscience. For because of this you also pay taxes, for they are servants of Elohim, attending continually to these duties. Render therefore to all that is due to them. Tax to whom tax is due, toll to whom toll, fear to whom fear, respect to whom respect.
Thank you. Reminds me of what Yahshua said when he was asked, walking through, and was asked about the taxes. And what did he say about the coin? Give to Caesar what is
Whose
Caesar's.
inscription is on this coin? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto Yahweh what is Yahweh's.
Yep.
So that kind of like, I've always been looking for a loophole in not paying my taxes.
Mhm.
With the government.
Not going to find it in the Bible.
Not the scripture, not exactly.
No. Render to the government what is the government's already. Yeah. It's not our picture on the money.
I know. Jess said something this morning that I was kind of interesting. In the Constitution, she said that there is, it's actually unconstitutional to like pay tax.
It is.
In the U.S.
It's true, Jess.
Supposedly the IRS knows about it, but at the same time, like they know. But at the same time, like, what's the point of fighting against it? Because they have the FBI on their side to come and knock on your door to take you, right? So, in a sense, like, Yah doesn't exactly want us to make a small matter, make something out of nothing. Didn't we just read that was in Samuel? And so, like, we give what we have. What is asked of us? Because, well, also too, like, that's also the oppression that they had in Mitzrayim, right?
Give what is stolen.
Right. Well, yes. But at the same time, he doesn't want us to be bickering and to be, what is that? There's a word I'm searching for, and I can't find it in my head.
Be fighting for the wrong side. Fighting for the wrong
Hold on,
side.
Evelyn. Good job. Can you think of the word that I'm trying to think of? He doesn't want us to make small matters big, but like there's an actual word that would contain all of that and then add more to that.
You know,
Anyway,
Yeah.
I just think like, well, what's the point of trying to fight and bicker on that? Because in the end, even if you have a lawyer that would be able to say you're right, you lose a lot in that battle.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of time with your family. You lose in stress of your heart instead of joyfulness. Like, and being without anxiety, I guess. Anyway, just
Uncle Mike.
Annabelle's
got a question. She's too shy to ask. So she wants me to ask it for her. I gotta ease her into this thing. She said, Daddy, I thought Yeshua loved everyone the same. Why does he love John the most? Can you expand on that for us?
I don't know why he loved John the most. It talks about in the Gospels about who Yeshua loved the most without naming him. But when we read all four of the scriptures, we figure it out that it is John. And maybe John's heart was more pure than the rest of them.
could have been more childlike.
Yeah.
Who knows that?
I don't know why he loved John the most. I don't have a good answer for that. I'm sorry.
You can ask Yeshua in the kingdom.
Uncle Mike.
We gotta do some digging on that. That's a really deep question.
It is.
I don't even know.
Right.
I was wondering that myself. I'm like, why does that bothers me if we love John the most? It's just love us all the same.
Right. What about me, man?
He's the
As
master.
long as he loves me, I don't care. He can love you all more. He still loves me, and that's good enough.
That's right.
I don't want to be like John. I want to be like Michael.
Doesn't pertain to today's message.
At least love.
Yep.
So we'll ask Uncle Mike at lunchtime.
2 Timothy, chapter 2. 2 Timothy 2, 8 through 21.
if no one else wants to read, I can read it.
I'll read it.
Oh.
You get you out of your turn.
You had your turn too.
I know. Go ahead and read
So
it.
Heather
I
wants
had
to
my
read
turn too.
Okay. I'll read it again then. 8 through 21.
8 through 21.
Remember that Yeshua Messiah of the seed of David was raised from the dead according to my good news, for which I had to suffer hardship as a criminal unto chains, but the word of Elohim is not chained.
Mm-hmm.
So I endured through it all for the sake of the chosen, so that they too obtain deliverance which is in Messiah Yeshua with everlasting esteem. Trustworthy is the word, for if we died with him, we shall also live with him. If we endure, we shall also reign with him. If we deny him, he shall also deny us. And if we are not trustworthy, he remains trustworthy, for it is impossible for him to deny himself. Remind them of this, earnestly witnessing before the master not to wage verbal battles, which is useless to the overthrowing of the hearers. Do your utmost to present yourselves approved to Elohim, a worker who does not need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. And keep away from profane, empty babblings, for they go on to more wickedness, and their word shall eat its way like gangrene. Humanius and Philetus are of this sort, who have missed the goal concerning the truth, saying that the resurrection has already taken place and overthrow the belief of some. However, the solid foundation of Elohim stands firm, having this seal: Yahuwah knows those who are his, and let everyone who names the name of the Messiah turn away from unrighteousness. But in a large house there are not only vessels of gold, silver, but of wood and clay, some unto value and some unto no value. If then anyone cleanses himself from these matters, he shall be a vessel unto value, having this been set apart of good use to the master, having been prepared for every good work.
Thank you. Something that I sometimes get caught up in, or have it in the past, is in verse 14. Remind them of this, earnestly witnessing before the master, not to wage verbal battles, which is useless, to the overthrowing of the hearers.
That you overzealous people.
It is.
Yeah, bro, you did a whole
And this time it's good that I keep my mouth shut. There we go.
Remember? We just talked about this last night.
Okay, shh, not yet. Okay. Okay, Evelyn.
What's
now,
that verse again, brother?
That was verse 14.
That was 1 Samuel 2:14.
That's funny. I like that.
Yeah. See, I told you there's a reason for everyone. There's purpose for everyone. And we are to learn, the overzealous people are to learn from people like you.
But
That we can speak with kindness.
this does not mean what this is talking about is non-scriptural stuff. If we are telling people the scripture defines the scripture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
But when we start throwing in our own opinion and whatnot, well, that's not what it means to me, bud. Yes,
That's what
it
it
doesn't
means.
matter.
That's
Yeah.
what it means.
Right.
Yeah.
I think all people new to the walk, and when they first have that zeal, that's them. They get into these verbal battles and altercations, and it's like, I was there.
Not all.
Pretty sure 100%.
Well, I didn't have a verbal battle.
Not all. Not all do.
Then a lot of them do. A lot. We should. There should be a guide to coming into the truth. Okay, so
Torah
you
guides
know the
and
truth.
guides.
Here's a guide to the Torah. Here's the things that you need to start off not doing.
You know,
Yeah,
but
I
here's
know
the thing,
it
you
is.
don't get that if you don't if nobody guides you into learning that, because if you're learning by yourself
Which usually most do,
Yeah.
because you're unlike anybody else.
and you had and so he was like, oh, you gotta be gentle, which you're already not yet.
Yeah, bro, it would have been nice to have you, before we kind of, knew about it, so that we didn't, go to our families first. We had, a warning, oh, guys, just do yourself.
Right?
Dude, just study. Just take it under prayer. Let the Father speak through you.
Evelyn, you need to stop being a distraction.
Evelyn,
You need to sit down.
Sit down.
I'm going to have to look up who this Hermeneus and Philetos are.
It only mentions that time.
Yeah. Keep away from the profane and empty babblings, for they go on no more from wickedness, and their words shall eat away like gangrene. Hymenaeus and Philetos are of this sort, who miss the goal concerning the truth, saying that the resurrection has already taken place, and overthrow the beliefs of some.
Is it talking about the resurrection at the end? Because obviously the resurrection of Yeshua already took place.
Right.
So it had to have been talking about the resurrection. You know what's interesting? Whoa. Even to this day, there are some people who hold to that teaching that say, oh, we're already in the kingdom. Everybody's already been resurrected.
Yep.
So we should look into to see what that teaching is that they gave, and see what to stay clear from.
Those people would be of Hymenaeus and Philetos. Yeah. I will need to distance myself from them.
Can I read Jude?
Hey, Jude.
I mean, I can. May I? May I read it?
Are we done in 2 Timothy?
Only if we're done in 2 Timothy. May I read it?
Sure.
Are we done with
Go ahead.
I wanted to point out that I don't have because we're in a bomb shelter right now, my phone doesn't operate here, so I wasn't able to pull up the scripture where it talks about the refinement of precious metals, it sounded like, silver and gold. And it just kind of reemphasizes when, we go through the daily fire here on earth, it's refining us, even though it's extremely painful sometimes to shut off our flesh, our fleshly desires and just strongholds that we have in our life. That these are things that are rooted in us from childhood most of the time. And I can just tell you right now that this past, year, especially this past couple months since we've moved out here, it's been painful and I've been refined, in a lot of ways, and continuing to get refined. But it's making, Yahweh's refining all of us in our own special way, right? And it's making us more valuable to Him, which is pretty incredible thought. when you look at it like that. Like we become more valuable to him, more precious to him in a way, when we go through that fire. And, become more like him ultimately. You know? So just want to encourage you guys
To run through that fire.
stay steadfast. You know?
Yes.
Run the race, don't give up, and endure.
Right.
You know, it's really difficult to do. Easy to say.
Good man sees evil and hides himself.
So can I bring something that kind of goes with what he said?
Mhm.
So Lana last proclaim when we went to Iowa with Lana and Dave, Lana and I had our separate time and we were doing some girly stuff together. And she has this book that we bought anyway. So when Clay was saying that we get these things from prior, you know what I mean, our ancestors and whatever, it's like built into us and we're trying to get rid of all that. Part of me not wanting to come home from Iowa was exactly that, because she went over this portion in this book that was like and explaining to me, you have to ask for those kind of things to be to repent for your ancestors' things and to, push those away and try to, and once we did that together and we prayed like crazy for these things that had happened in the past that were put upon us, my heart was so full.
Yeah.
I mean, it was something that I've never experienced ever in my life, and it was amazing just to ask for forgiveness for their sins and not walking the way they should have, and they didn't, pass that along as they should have, generation to generation.
Yeah.
And it was huge. So that reminded me of that. It was huge, and we went through this thing of forgive my mother for the things that she had taught because she didn't know because of the priors, whatever.
Yeah.
And actually physically praying those things out loud was it was huge. It was
Really
huge.
powerful.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that ask for forgiveness for your ancestors,
Right?
Or your mother and father.
I thought it was weird when we first started doing it, and then I'm like, this is so good. This is really good stuff.
Yeah, but that's actually biblical, what you guys did, and I didn't even realize that until kind of recently, perhaps a year, I think.
Yeah.
Whoa, should have been praying for repenting of what my father's done, his father's done, kind of.
Right. Piggybacking on that goes back into where it talked about the rod and it talked about the fathers. And Clay's like, who are the fathers? And what he was doing was going into present day at that time. And I'm like, no, God, Yah, does not see us as individuals. He sees us as one through our family line. And so, that's why things are passed, curses and blessings are passed from generation to generation, because we're all in the bloodline. And so when he was it said the fathers, we knew, Clay knows. He was talking about the fathers, meaning Naphtali, Judah, Issachar, right? But Clay was asking, well, they appointed the fathers of. There's a lot of fathers at that time. I'm like, no, the fathers of the tribe. Just who's our father, Abraham, right? It goes down where we are seen as one family, as one group.
So we gotta
That's
repent.
why there's
we gotta repent of what Father Jacob did, Isaac.
But what's cool about that though is because we are walking the walk and we have found the truth, which they never did or may have and then fell from it, whatever, so long ago, is that we get to hopefully put a stop to that and teach our generations the right way.
Right.
It's now up to us to do the right thing, which is That's awesome.
We're grafted into a new rope, new line. That with the sins of our fathers that were on the earth, we not pertain to us anymore because we've overcome evil desires of our flesh that are visited upon us from our fathers.
I just remembered something back in Numbers. I totally forgot to bring it up. It mentioned the rod of Aaron. It actually like sprouted out shoots as well. Almonds. What is the symbol of an almond tree? Is it considered? I thought it was considered like a tree of life or something like that. It had some sort of major significance. I've heard in a teaching or something like that. I don't know if you guys know of what the almond tree stands for or not. I just wanted to bring that up.
Almond tree.
I find it interesting that it sprouted out almonds. I'm like, ooh, almonds. Like, they're not even roasted or salted.
Hey, Clay.
They're just.
It was sprouting from a branch that wasn't in the ground.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's the difference.
I don't know of anything with the almond tree. The olive tree, that's different. I've seen the two olive trees as trees of life. But
Isn't the menorah the branches an olive branch? I mean, it is an olive branch. Sorry, that came out like very like fluid. Like I already knew in my head that I was gonna try and say almond branch. That answered my own question. Jude?
Yep, on to Jude.
On to Jude.
Yehuda, a servant of Yahshua Messiah and brother of Yaakov, to those who are called, set apart by Elohim the Father, and preserved in Yahshua Messiah, compassion and peace and love be increased to you. Beloved ones, making all haste to write to you concerning your common deliverance, I felt the necessity to write to you, urging you to earnestly contend for the belief which was once for all delivered to the set-apart ones. For certain men have slipped in, whose judgment was written about long ago, wicked ones, perverting the favor of our Elohim for indecency, and denying the only Master Yeshua and our Yahweh, denying the only Master Yahweh and our Master Yeshua Messiah. But I intend to remind you, though you once knew this, that Yahweh, having saved a people out of the land of Mitzrayim, afterward destroyed those who did not believe, and the messengers who did not keep their own principality, but left their own dwellings, he has kept in everlasting shaftless. He has kept in everlasting shaftless under darkness for the judgment of the great day.
The shackles.
Thank you. I'm like, that is not right. Why am I not singing that? Even as Sodom and Amorah and the cities around them, in a similar way to these, having given themselves over to whoring and gone after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, undergoing judicial punishment of everlasting fire. In the same way, indeed, these dreamers defile the flesh, and reject authority, and speak evil of esteemed ones. But Michael, how do you say that? Michael, the chief messenger, in contending with the devil, when he disputed about the body of Moshe, presumed not to bring against him a blasphemous accusation, but said, Yahweh rebuke you. But these blaspheme that which they do not know, and that which they know naturally, like unreasoning beasts. In these they corrupt themselves. Woe to them, because they have gone in the way of Cain. Right?
Cain.
And gave themselves to the delusion of Balaam for a reward, and perished in the rebellion of Korah. These are rocky reefs in your love feasts, feasting with you, feeding themselves without fear, waterless clouds borne about by the winds, late autumn trees without fruit, twice dead, pulled up by the roots, wild waves of the sea, foaming up their own shame, straying stars from whom blackness of darkness is kept forever. And Hanok, the seventh from Adam, also prophesied of these, saying, See, Yahweh comes with his myriads of set-apart ones, to execute judgment on all, to punish all who are wicked among them concerning all their wicked works which they have committed in a wicked way, and concerning all the harsh words which wicked sinners have spoken against him. These are grumblers, complainers, who walk according to their own lusts, and their own mouth speaks proudly, admiring faces of others for the sake of gain. But you, beloved ones, remember the words spoken by the emissaries of our Master, Yahshua Messiah, because they told you that there would be mockers in the last time who would walk according to their own wicked lusts. These are the ones who cause divinations, not having the Spirit. But you, beloved ones, building yourselves up on your most set-apart belief, praying in the set-apart Spirit, keeping yourselves in the love of Elohim, looking for the compassion of our Master Yahshua Messiah unto everlasting life, and show compassion towards some who were doubting, but others saved with fear, snatching them out of the fire, hating even the garment defiled by the flesh, and to him who is able to keep you from stumbling, and to present you blameless before the presence of his esteem with exceeding joy. To be only wise Elohim, our Savior, be esteem and greatness and might and authority, both now and forever. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Hannah mentioned in there. The book of Hannah, Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
That should be part of the canon.
Seventh from Adam.
Got it in there, 7%.
One thing that just popped out at me at the end there was the hating the garment of flesh. I think it said. So it said.
I'm not sure.
The garment of flesh, and that's
Even the garment defiled by the flesh.
Yeah.
Defiled by the flesh. Yeah. We're just talking about our own bodies.
The clothes you wear.
No, it's talking about our fleshly body.
The garment?
Yeah, our fleshly garment. It's our flesh. We're wearing our fleshly garments right now until we get our new garments. And we get our new bodies.
Your bodies. It's referring to bodies.
Yeah. And it's just, it's easier, it's difficult, how do you fight against yourself? You know what I mean? If your body wants to do something, you have an overwhelming desire to, say, indulge in a lustful thing.
Gluttony?
Yeah. But it's something like that,
Anything.
Yeah, your body just has this overwhelming urge to drag you through the mud, basically. How do you fight against that when it comes? Because that's what I think it's referring to is, what Paul says is I contend with my flesh daily. Our bodies literally are leading us into sin on a daily basis by the natural urges that we have. Yeah.
Is it our bodies or our minds? Where our minds are and our heart is. Mm-hmm. And our mind leads our body.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about.
It's mastering your mind is what it is.
Yeah. Well,
that's what he's talking about, buffeting his body.
Renewing your mind.
Yes.
Renew your
We
mind.
have to do that on a, like you said, on a daily basis.
Before we started in the walk, all of our thoughts would manifest out of our mouth in everything that we did. Since starting the walk, we've learned to control that. We control what comes out because now words mean a lot more than what they did before. Words can be uplifting and edifying. They can also be poisonous and destructive. And discerning from each and learning how to control, like your temper. I used to be a hothead. I used to have a really bad temper and a short fuse. And coming into the walk, asking the Father to be patient with me and to uplift me in righteousness and show me how to be a man that is a man of Him. He worked on that for me. So rebuking things in your head, like if a thought comes in, rebuking it. This is disgusting. Yeah. This is not of the Father. This should not even be a thought in my head. But that's when you know you're closest, because Hasatan is really, now you're not bringing these things out of your mouth. Right. They're up here, and now Hasatan is trying to separate that to get it to come out of your mouth again. So when we rebuke it and we're asking the Father, hey, please forgive me for this. I'm nothing without you. You know, that is willpower, and it takes a lot of self-control to do those types of things. And it takes a lot of time to build that up. Jess, and then you.
Okay, so when I was reading, I was like, oh, I gotta go back. I gotta go back. There's a few things I gotta go back on. And I still have to go back on a few other things. But verse 6, it says, and the messengers who did not keep their own principality, but left their own dwelling, he kept in everlasting shackles under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Whoa, okay, so, you know, in Revelation, it talks about the locusts that come out, but that actually have, like, they kind of look like men and a bunch of other things. The locusts come out of that great darkness. They are these, because it says, and the messengers. Who are the messengers? You want to translate it in a modern English today, you could say angels or whatever, the fallen, the demons, whatever, right? They're the messengers who did not keep their own principality, which actually, interestingly enough, Annabelle and I had a conversation recently because she asked some pretty deep questions. And she was like, why were there giants? And so, you know how Hasatan always, like, defiles Yah's word. He always does things that's, like, goes against it. Like, please continue to... He attacks it in every area of his Torah, he defiles, right? Well, I was telling her, Yah tells us we cannot mix two different kinds. We can't mix two different kinds. A messenger and a human are two different kinds.
Well, he says on Fiddler and Root.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyway, because it says right here, who did not keep their own principality, but left their own dwellings. So if they left their own dwellings, they had to go to a different dwelling, right? He kept in everlasting shackles under darkness for the judgment of the great day. Anyway, I'm just blown away because I knew there was a lot packed in that one verse that I didn't eat up and consume, that is talking about those. It's so plain, and I'm probably over-explaining this.
Go ahead.
But it's just those that disobeyed from the beginning are saved for the end, which is talked about in Revelation. And I need to find that verse in Revelation. But that's it. That's exciting, and I'm going to keep looking for other things. Hold on. You guys talk.
Okay. Okay, I want to read one thing for you in Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days and afterward. And when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were mighty men who were of old, men of name. That's the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Those are the 30-foot high people.
Right.
The book of Enoch talks more detail about who the angels were and who fell.
Well, so I was describing to Anne because she was like, "How did they get so big?" I was like, "Well, essentially, I mean, I tried to explain it in a way she could understand that the messengers married, which I wouldn't say. Who knows if they actually married, but married a human being.
They ain't married. They just took.
But that's how That's how she understands it.
All right. We'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Okay.
1 o'clock. We'll have a closing song and prayer. We'll eat some lunch. We'll go from there.
Okay. Sounds good.
We can talk more after lunch.
Okay.
Do the Aaronic blessing, and then we'll pray. Yivarekaka Yahweh v'yishmereka, Yair Yahweh panaveleka v'yikuneka, Yisa Yahweh panaveleka v'yasemleka. Shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Our most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, to come together and dive into your word and learn more about how you brought the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim and out of bondage and slavery into your freedom, Father. We're blessed to be brought out of our own version of Mitzrayim and into the freedom that you've given us. We love you and we thank you, Father. We ask that you bless the food and bless the hands that prepared it. Let it be strength and nourishment to our bodies. And let your word that we read today, Father, be the strength and nourishment to our spirit. We yearn to be more like you and to learn more about you. We look forward every day to the Sabbath, and we look forward to the day that when you shall send your son Yeshua to bring us all home into that Abrahamic covenant, into the land that you've prepared for us. Be with us until then, Father, and keep us and lead us and guide us, and let us always seek you out. We love you and we thank you, and we come before you in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Amen.
All right.
Look at me. Want to pray?